From time to time, the issue of spiritual gifts has divided believers. Speaking in tongues has long caused contention. The Apostle Paul put that issue to rest a long time ago in his writings to the church at Corinth. He taught that there is something that far transcends all spiritual gifts, and that something is love. Today, more study in the famous Love chapter. Stay with us. From Chicago's Moody Church, this is Running to Win with Dr. Erwin Lutzer, whose clear teaching helps us make it across the finish line. We're in a series on finding where you fit. Turn with us to 1 Corinthians chapter 13 as Dr. Lutzer comes again to tell us about the motivation of love and why that motivation surpasses every other spiritual gift.
He says, if there are gifts of prophecy, they will be done away. Oh, you say, but I can speak in tongues. In fact, there are people now in certain churches who not only are speaking in tongues, but are making animal noises, and they are doing that, thinking that they are doing God a favor and themselves a favor. And Paul says, if there are tongues, they will cease. If there's knowledge, what that he means is that gift of knowledge he talked about earlier that some people have. He says, it's going to be done away. So all of the books and all of the tapes and all of the things that we put so much stock in today, they will no longer be relevant at a certain point of time, and they will all burn. They will all burn. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. See, this is the best we can do. We need these gifts in this side of eternity. But when the perfect comes, that is when Jesus returns to earth and the church becomes perfect, this partial, this struggling with our own gifts and knowing where we fit, he says it is going to be done away. When I was a child, I used to speak as a child, I thought as a child, and reason as a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. Paul says, all you're arguing about gifts, and this one is greater, and you really need that if you're going to get really plugged into God. He said, it's childish. He's not depreciating the gifts, mind you. They are very important, but what he's saying is if that's your emphasis and you don't see this overwhelming tide of love that should engulf all that you do, he says you have really missed it and you are childish. Yeah, that's what he says. For now we see through a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know fully, just as I also have been fully known. People say, well, we know one another in heaven. Of course we'll know one another, and I believe that intuitively we'll know the names of all the folks in heaven, because it says, now we know in part, but then I shall know fully, just as I also have been fully known. It doesn't mean that we're going to be omniscient. In heaven we aren't going to know everything. In fact, one of the things we're going to be doing in heaven is studying God to eternity, because the ideas of God will extend to eternity. So we're going to be learning in heaven. We're going to be studying God. That's going to be the subject. But as far as we are concerned, we're going to know each other in heaven. And I believe that we're going to be able to walk up to some of those old saints and we'll know them intuitively. And we'll just be able to sit down and solve all the biblical questions that puzzled us as to why they acted that way. And we'll ask them those questions if they are relevant. And that's a mighty big if. I shall know fully, just as I also have been fully known. But now abide faith, hope, and love, these three, but the greatest of these is love. And though not stated expressly, I think Paul wants us to grasp that only love is going to endure. Because you see, when Jesus Christ returns to earth, you'll notice it says, now abides faith, but we will not need faith anymore, because faith will have become sight. We will not need hope, because hope will have become a reality. But love is going to abide, because love is eternal as God. For God is love, and he that knoweth God loveth, the Bible says. And so that's Paul's word to the people in Corinth. And then he picks up the subject of gifts again and says, remember now, nothing matters. It's important, but nothing matters unless you love. Well, what we need to do is to back up a little bit and ask ourselves this question. And the question that we need to ask ourselves is, what is going on here in the text that is so significant? What is the love that the Apostle Paul is talking about? It most assuredly is not human love, is it? because human beings just don't love that way. This is divine love. This is something that is supernatural. And if I could make a distinction, it would be this, that human love is based on the one who is loved. That's human love. Human love says, I can love you because of what you do for me. I love you because you make me feel good. I love you because you are special to me. When a man says to a woman, I love you, usually he also means you are lovely in my sight. And that's why I love you, is because you are easy to love. Now, there are two things that attract us to people. One is their looks. And I want you to know today that those of you who are beautiful, and there are a few of you like that out there, you have an advantage that the rest of us don't have. When you were in supermarkets and your mother took you there were people who made over you and talked to you and gave you attention that some of us didn't have, because we are attracted to people who are beautiful. And then the other is personality. You know, there are those who just ooze personality. They are very gregarious. They are very outgoing. You'll just love Jim, someone may say. And the reason is because Jim is this outgoing, I was going to say, magnetic personality. I know a man who said that his wife has a magnetic personality. And the reason is because virtually everything she wears is charged. And you meet somebody like that, and you are attracted to them, and that is human love. The Song of Solomon is a poem of human love. How beautiful you are, my darling, how beautiful you are. I guess I should bring Rebecca up here and say this to her. It says, your eyes are like doves behind your veil. Your hair is like the mountain goats that have come down from Mount Gilead. Your teeth are like newly washed ewes that give birth and bear twins. And then it goes on to say, it says that your mouth is very beautiful and your lips are